You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
PackersTalk.com. Do you want to experience the thrill of a Packers game at Lambeau Field? If so, be sure to get your game ticket from the longtime trusted source in Wisconsin, Ticket King. Visit their locations in Milwaukee and Green Bay, or just go to their website at ticketking.com. Again, that's theticketking.com.
Throws it up in the air, says a prayer, and Jayme says, "Stop it! Oh, please! What a cat! That's insane!"
You're listening to the best Packer radio show on the internet.
Cheesehead Radio.
Reach the get those back.
So I think that's the logical explanation.
Let's just, say that didn't happen.
It was a return to greatness. It was a return to form.
It's crazy. And he just kind of flew under the radar.
Get this out there so I sound good on Cheesehead Radio.
Yeah.
No negativity allowed, sir.
So I think that's actually going to be really exciting to watch. I don't think there's anything positive we can say. There's a lot.
Oh, you were looking for positive.
I guess that's what I meant. Positive, I think. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cheesehead Radio. We are here tonight for the playoff win edition of Cheesehead Radio. It feels good to say that. Your hosts tonight are the spontaneous C.D. Angeli of PackersTalk.com and Cheesehead TV, the ebullient Michelle Bruton of Cheesehead TV and Bleacher Report, and little old me, Jersey Al of Packers Talk and Cheesehead TV. Sponsoring the Packers Talk Network this year, as you know, were the fine folks at Ticket King. We thank them so much for their support. I imagine you can still buy tickets to the Packers game in Dallas on their website if you like, so check them out at theticketking.com. Well, let's get started with some Packers news.
Packers news.
Well, fans may have been surprised and disappointed to hear on Tuesday that wide receiver Geronimo Allison, who's been so important to the team the last few weeks, was charged with possession of marijuana. But fear not, the wide receiver isn't getting himself into trouble during the postseason. The report detailed a September arrest and subsequent December charge. His first court appearance is scheduled for January 23rd, and the NFL will not take action regarding discipline until after that court case is resolved.
I liked it better when we just reported on all the injuries, not the court cases.
Try to mix it up a little bit tonight.
Thanks a lot, yeah. Well, the Packers are going to need Geronimo this week against the Dallas Cowboys because it's possible they are going to be without top wideout Jordy Nelson. The Packers nation watched in horror on Sunday as Nelson was speared, illegally I might add, in the ribs by Giants cornerback Leon Hall. Mike McCarthy said Wednesday that Nelson would work with the rehab group at practice.
Speaking of the rehab group, that's also where cornerback Quentin Rollins worked Wednesday as he worked his way back from a head/neck injury he suffered in the final week of the season. He remains in the concussion protocol.
And most fans have the Cowboys on their minds now, but they're not pleased to learn that Fox's #1 team of Joe Buck and Troy Aikman will be calling the game. In fact, Packers fans are now signing a change.org petition to ban Buck and Aikman from calling the game. As of Wednesday evening, it had nearly 20,000 signatures.
The power of social media. Speaking of that, Pro Football Focus analyst Nathan Janke, who always shares extremely informative Packers stats on Twitter, had this to share this week. Randall Cobb hasn't dropped a pass since last year's divisional round game. Now that you know that, go ahead and knock on every piece of wood you can find.
There it is. Thank you. Everyone's knocking.
I hear you knocking. Go ahead.
For those who witnessed Ty Montgomery's injury last week against the Giants and have been worried about his availability for the divisional round, good news. It sounds like he'll be good to go against the Cowboys.
And for those keeping track of the running backs, you may have heard that Cowboys rusher Ezekiel Elliott was involved in a car accident. As far as we know, no members of the Packers organization were involved. All jokes aside, Elliott tweeted that he's fine, so expect him to be business as usual on Sunday.
And finally, if you happen to be in the Dallas area on Sunday, you can join Packers Everywhere for an official free playoff pep rally at Gillies, Dallas. Donnie Anthony Anderson, Earl Dotson, and Marco Rivera will be in attendance to take photos with fans, and Packers president Mark Murphy will participate in a Q&A with the voice of the Packers, Wayne Larrivee.
And that was your Packers News of the Week. Now it's time for your
Packer Tweets from Packer Tweets.
Well, we can all agree it was awesome having Randall Cobb back in action on Sunday, and his return was nothing less than a career day in the playoffs. Bart Winkler notes incredible day with this tweet. Randall Cobb out there acting like he's never been on a boat in his entire life.
That was great. I didn't see that one. That was great. Well
done, Bart.
Yeah, speaking of boat trips, Odell Beckham Jr. apparently celebrated his playoff loss by putting a hole in the wall of some drywall in Lambeau Field. Our friend Kyle Cousineau cuts past the indignation with a little bit of pride. If I'm the Packers, I'd cut out this piece of drywall, frame it, and put it in the Packers Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. And adding insult to injury, the injury being that the Giants' all-pro receiver was effectively shut down by the practice squad secondary of the Packers, our friend, the Packer Ranter, added to the Hall of Fame display by tweeting, "Have Ladarius Gunter sign it and put a glass case around it."
But with all the fun surrounding OBJ, we can't take anything away from the amazing performance of our QB1. Certainly, nothing was lost on the Giants' defense either, as Eric Upton reminded us when he tweeted, "Love this from Giants linebacker Jonathan Casillas on what happened yesterday." His answer, Aaron Rodgers happened.
We sure hope that Aaron Rodgers keeps happening for a few more games this offseason. And that, certainly, was your Cheesehead Radio Tweet of the Week.
Tweet of the Week.
You love doing the tweets after a win like that, don't you?
Oh, there's so much fun.
Everything's funny.
Yep.
I think that joy seems to bring out wit better than anger and frustration.
It's a little irony, I suppose. You know, people you lose, and everyone's got some good biting comments, but you laugh at it. And it's kind of like, this is like, we can laugh at this all night. Ladarius Gunter, you put him in a glass box. You had to put his hole in a glass box. That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, lots of fun. All right.
The playbook.
Ooh, that was a little loud.
What? I can't hear you.
Yeah, exactly. You're doing it again to us.
Yeah, just can't get these volumes to level out. Anyway, let's talk a little bit. Let's just review the game. How can we not talk about the Hail Mary? Probably a turning point in the game.
We can't talk about it.
Well, let's never, none talk about it, because I think that has to be probably, I think that was a quintuple negative. I think that was fine. The fact that he has now thrown 3 Hail Marys in the course of, 14 months?
Yep.
Oh, my gosh. How many quarterbacks have even thrown more than 2 end-of-the-half, end-of-the-game type of Hail Marys in their life, in their entire career?
Do you have that answer?
I do not.
Well, then you shouldn't ask that question.
I know it would be nobody. That'd be my guess.
Pro Football Reference tracks some really esoteric splits and different, situational stats, and I'm curious to see if they have something about Hail Mary. The thing about Hail Marys is they're so rare. They should be so rare, unless your name is Aaron Charles Rodgers, that they're not even something that people probably compile data on, because you wouldn't even have enough to make a relevant sample.
I think the play, most his other Hail Marys were obviously game enders last season. This one was an end of the half, so obviously we had to come back out and play another half, but I think it really set the tone for the rest of the game. You got to remember, the Packers did not start this game out very well. In fact, if Odell Beckham didn't spend any time on a boat, it's very possible that there are several passes he could have caught, and a lot of those passes that were dropped in that first quarter really could have done some major damage to the scoreboard for the Packers. But it didn't, so the Packers seemed to be just basically hanging with them. That Hail Mary just seemed to completely send the team in at halftime with a tremendous up, and they came out, and it was amazing. I think that really that turned the momentum, I think, permanently the Packers' way the rest of the game.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You said everything.
Well, are we doing a show? What? I'm sorry, I fell asleep there for a second.
Don't wake up Jersey out, would you?
I had muted myself.
Give him a nudge.
Sorry about that.
An illegal spear to the ribs.
There you go.
Actually, what I was doing was Googling Hail Marys and history of Hail Marys, but no such luck in finding a stat like that yet. Anyway, so
Jayme would have found it.
Jayme would have had it in 2 seconds. I know.
I know. Maybe she's listening
that.
right now, and I'll get a text message. Who knows?
If you're out
The one thing I noticed on the Hail Mary too, and I don't know if anyone else caught it. If you watch the slow motion, I classified Randall Cobb's catch as what I used to call a Robert Ferguson catch, in which it looked like he was almost falling down backwards and was catching the ball almost at its lowest point. Now, when Robert Ferguson did this, it was almost always intercepted. That's why I called it kind of the Robert Ferguson pass, because he never actually went up to catch the ball. But it was interesting because there were 3 defenders directly in front of him.
I'm glad you explained that, by the way.
Thank you. But if you looked at it, all 3 of the defenders literally stumbled over each other. Because that ball came down. It was not that high at that point. Had any 3 of those defenders been able to put a little bit of air under themselves and get their arm up, I think the ball easily would have been tipped. I don't know if it would have been intercepted. But literally, they all bumped into each other, and none of them could jump. All just kind of standing there watching it, and the ball comes just over their head, and he catches it, at a low point, which is almost impossible. It's almost impossible to do in the end zone, especially at a Hail Mary. So I thought that made it a very interesting, very special catch for Cobb. It was an amazing one.
Yeah, two things about that. One was that little push by Cobb on Collins, which kind of helped the bunch of 3 defensive backs stay bunched together. And I think that kind of...
I didn't see the push.
Sorry? You didn't see
I didn't see the push. No.
I'm sure you didn't. But in any case, that kept the 3 guys together and probably unable to get a good jump because they were all pressed up against each other. And the second thing was Eli Apple just let Cobb just wander behind him. I mean, Apple's got him the whole way down. They get into the end zone. Apple looks up at the ball, and Cobb just, takes a few steps behind him. Apple completely, it's almost like he forgot about him. And how do you do that? So those were the 2 things I noticed about that, other than, of course, the great throw and the result. But
well, and that's so, to CD's point, I think that when you're going up for Hail Mary, you're really focused on what's in front of, you're focused on the area directly above your head and in front of you. So you're kind of thinking, all right, if I've got guys behind me, I don't need to worry about them because the ball is going to come down above me and in front of me, because that's normally how it would go. And I think what's so incredible about it is, I'm not going to pretend that Randall Cobb knew exactly the pinpoint place on the field that Aaron Rodgers was throwing that ball. Clearly, it was a little bit of luck. But, Eli Apple isn't the one catching passes from Aaron Rodgers in practice every day. I think Randall Cobb is familiar enough with Rodgers' arm strength and sort of the arc of his throws to just have kind of wrestled himself, all 5 foot 10 inches of himself, into the perfect position to just kind of sneak in there. Yeah. So I've got a little Wikipedia entry here of list of notable Hail Mary passes in American football. And so looking at this, pretty much since 2013, so in the last 3 years, there have been there have been 7 notable Hail Mary passes. And of course, as we know, Aaron Rodgers has thrown 3 of them, which is pretty incredible. But I think the other thing that's really funny is if you start looking at this list, the Packers appear on a lot of these plays. They're just not always the ones throwing the Hail Mary. So obviously we have the Hail Mary in 2012. And then we also had that Eli Manning Hail Mary in the same 2012 playoff. So whether Rodgers has been throwing them or not, the Packers have just really, where the Packers go, Hail Marys tend to follow them, it seems.
Interesting.
Oh, and then Rodgers also had that unsuccessful Hail Mary in 2015 against the Vikings.
The Vikings, right, yeah.
That's right.
Right, when they won the championship.
Going back to your point, Michelle, I think the irony is if you'd been watching tape. I mean, let's pretend these defenders spend time in their weekly meetings studying how to defend Aaron Rodgers' Hail Marys.
Which they might start having to.
I mean,
you would have to pretend,
every defense is going to have to now. And you think about where Jeff Janis was, and you think about where Richard Rodgers was. There was the big bunch in the end zone, and literally Richard Rodgers is out on the 5-yard line, backing up and catches it directly in front of everybody. It was perfect. Janis, very much the same thing. So kind of going exactly to your point, had they been playing it correctly the way that Janis had and Rodgers had, they were probably doing it right, and then completely different went behind them. It's ironic that it's almost like that Brett Favre game, Oakland in 2002, where the receivers just said, hey, anything you throw up, we're going to catch. And literally, that's kind of what's happening with these Hail Marys. Hey, just put it up. We'll get it. It's good. Has Rodgers tried any Hail Marys between the Rodgers one and this one? Has he tried any Hail Marys that have failed?
Between which one?
Has he thrown any ever since he threw the first one? Yeah, he threw Janis, but has anyone failed? I mean, has he even attempted one that didn't work out?
No.
I think so.
Unless this is inexhaustive, but
that's 3 for 3 though. Assuming he hasn't, we're not thinking about one that's just a throwaway long pass at the end of a half or something. But 3 for 3, that's amazing.
3 Hail Marys in a row. They talk about records that will never be broken. That's probably a record that'll never be broken.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. All right, moving on here. I'm going to sneak down just a spot here, just because we've talked so much about, I guess, what is the huge play of the game. What is your underappreciated play of this game? Because it was a masterpiece from start to finish. I mean, this was from about the second quarter to finish. It was a really, really a great game that was played. But, it doesn't all come down to the Hail Mary. I think it did turn things around. But what play do you look at that really was kind of underappreciated that you think made a big impact on the final result?
I know mine.
You go, girl.
And please tell us. Don't keep us in suspense.
I don't know that this necessarily made a huge impact on the final score. This happened right at the beginning of the fourth quarter. So, it was still within reach. Green Bay was winning 24-13 at that time. But I'm thinking about the play where Jake Ryan dropped back into coverage on Odell Beckham and just blanketed him. And I think that probably you could say that this game was Jake Ryan's best game of his career in terms of coverage. And that's a really exciting thing because, as we know, the Packers' kind of biggest problem at inside linebacker has been their ability to cover the middle of the field and to drop back into coverage. And, Odell Beckham is probably, for all of his lapses in judgment and sort of dropped catches, he's one of the best in the league right now. So to be able to have Jake Ryan as a coverage linebacker keeping pace with Odell Beckham step for step and blanketing him and defensing the pass, I thought was such a positive sign of things to come for Ryan and for this middle of the defense.
Okay. All right.
CD?
Jersey Al, you have one?
You go.
I can go. Well, my underappreciated game is actually directed toward you, Jersey Al.
Play of the game.
Absolutely. Because it is underappreciated, and I think when things are going well, we tend to forget some of the negative things. And Mason Crosby took an awful lot of abuse on this show.
Deservedly so at the time.
Deservedly so.
Yep.
But in this game, he did kick a 32-yard field goal. Put him up 24-13, but it also marked his 21st consecutive field goal in the playoffs.
NFL record.
NFL record.
Yep.
Jersey Al, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I can hear you then. I can hear you whenever you want. I don't get the point. I don't know why I have to keep taking abuse for just pointing out what was the truth at the time.
It was at the time, but as of right now, I think my underappreciated player of the game is an underappreciated player who really has become probably
you never
one of the best
play
kickers.
by the rules. You never play by the rules.
No, I don't.
It's underappreciated play of the game. I know.
It was a field goal.
I got to find a word for that next week. Someone who never plays by the rules. That's going to be your maybe that'll be your continual adjective to describe. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe that'll be permanent.
You're starting to sound like Odell Beckham Jr. talking to the ref there, Al. Shh, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. Anyway.
Whining?
Yeah, just a little. It's okay. But anyway, my play of the game, Mason Crosby, underappreciated player and an underappreciated play. Obviously wasn't the difference of the ball game, but the fact that he has been so reliable, and we take it for granted at this point. And it was not long ago that it was a bit of a scary thing to have Mason Crosby out there. It wasn't long ago that we were literally saying, oh my God, don't send him out there. Try a Hail Mary instead. And now it's automatic. So that's my play.
Okay.
Jersey Al, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to go a little bit tongue-in-cheek with this one. My
part of the rule?
What's that?
Just ride me. Go ahead.
I didn't hear what you said. That's all.
I said, is that against the rules? Is that against the rules? Can you do that?
I don't
Can
know.
you go tongue-in-cheek?
Sure.
So
all
many
right, go
rules.
ahead. I know.
All it says is unappreciated play of the game. No other qualifiers, right? So in any case, what I'm going to go with is Jared Cook dropping the pass just before the half to leave 6 seconds on the clock and to allow Aaron Rodgers to throw his third straight Hail Mary. If he catches that pass in the middle of the field with no timeouts, the half is over. It's 7-6. Different ball game. They don't have that momentum going into the half. Thank you, Jared Cook.
It was a mulligan.
Yes.
You know what I notice, and maybe I'm wrong, and particularly Jordy Nelson is really, really good at drawing this. Driver was awfully good at it too, but Nelson, I think, might be the master at drawing the pass interference penalties. He's really been fantastic at it over the past several years. It almost doesn't seem like they're trying to draw that anymore. And maybe when you see that pass going to Cook, no time left, why would you even pass there? Maybe that pass was just going there and they were going to hope for a defensive penalty and get some yardage. The swagger from Aaron Rodgers, the fact that you would have someone on the show even suggesting trading this guy is ridiculous. Because this guy, I don't know, it was John, but
yeah, the guy who hasn't been here.
He was on once. Okay, you missed it. We talked about you mostly, but anyway, the swagger that he has and the confidence that he presently has reminds me of young Aaron Rodgers. And it's sad that we've maybe gotten to that point where we have to think about Aaron Rodgers kind of being an old coot. But he is playing, he's an older man playing a young man's game, and he's playing it like a young man. When are they announcing the MVP award?
They usually do it, when do they do it? Isn't it like the night before the Super Bowl?
It could be.
Oh, yeah, but they have that like award show thing?
Yeah, like
on ESPN.
Oh,
right now,
is that when they announce it? No.
I think they might do it the week off between the championship games and the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But not to be a guy who is being a homer, but yeah, I guess I will be. Who else would you say is actually deserving of this award this year? Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, Mr. Suspension. They're not going to give it to a rookie running back. I can't see that happening.
Especially because he'll win Rookie of the Year easily.
Right. So you're looking at what? Matt Ryan.
You could make an argument for Prescott.
And also for Derek Carr.
Yeah, that's true. Both those teams, where would they have been without those two quarterbacks?
Right, and that's where it gets tricky because that's where your strength for the argument for Rodgers really comes from is, sure, you can say, okay, yeah, if we want to go based on statistics, give it to Matt Ryan. He had the best statistical season, and he probably won't ever have that again, blah, blah, blah. But most people who want to give it to Rodgers will say, okay, well, if we take most valuable at its literal definition, how can you even argue that the Packers aren't the one team that would be a completely different offense if you took away Aaron Rodgers? But that's kind of the same argument you make for Derek Carr because you just look at what's happened to that poor Raiders team since he went down. So I don't think he's gotten nearly enough early vote, but it is an interesting sort of philosophical argument. And as for Dak, I think that, we only saw Tony Romo go in for like one series, but I feel like, not to take anything away from Dak, but I feel like Romo could have, behind that offensive line and with Ezekiel Elliott, I think they would have ended up in a very similar place had it been Romo.
But don't you think that Romo could have gotten them to the playoffs?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's what
I think
you just
Romo
said.
could have done.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So, I don't think there's any way that I know, but I don't think there's any way Rodgers, this team could have got there without Rodgers.
Exactly.
There's a point where I don't think this team was going to get there with Rodgers, and just the fact that he elevated his game so much, and the difference it's made in a record, and the production on the team, it's really stemmed from him. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's willing a team to win, almost individually. He's inspired an offense around him and a defense around him, too. So, I don't know. Prescott, he's had a great season. He's surrounded by a good team. Maybe it's a testament to what the Cowboys have done. You know, they've been hitching their pony to Tony Romo for how many years and paying him all this money and thinking he was going to be the white knight. And in the end, it was a fourth-round pick, maybe an afterthought, who suddenly is having a MVP caliber season. It's quite a statement to make for the team that's around him. If you look at the team that's around Aaron Rodgers right now, this defense has been in shambles. Eddie Lacy not playing. James Starks not playing. You've had Randall Cobb out part of the year, and now you got Jordy Nelson out part of the year. So this guy's made do with basically an offensive line in front of him that's pretty stout, and he's willed this team to win. I think he deserves it.
Not to mention the fact that since week 10, I believe, he hasn't thrown a single interception since he called his shot. Because, you know, that's the big knock, is people who don't want to vote for him sort of point to his quote-unquote slump in the middle of the season. But even Aaron Rodgers on a bad day is still where most NFL quarterbacks outside maybe the top 6 hope to be. So outside of his quote-unquote slump, I mean, he's been having an insane statistical season.
But you are right. I never really took a very close look at Matt Ryan's stats, and holy fright, 117.1 passer efficiency rating.
Yeah, the stats are scary, right?
5,000 yards. Jeez.
And I think there is sort of a feeling of, like, you know how sometimes people win. I'm a big, like, Oscars geek. And, you know, sometimes people just win it because it's kind of like a Lifetime Achievement Award type thing. Like, they've performed pretty well for so long, and they haven't won it for anything else. So even if that particular movie, or in this football case, season isn't, you know, the best of all time, you kind of just feel like you have to. Like, Ryan, this is probably his last chance. And I feel like a lot of especially because he's not a very objectionable person. And at the end of the day, yes, these awards are given out by journalists who should be unbiased, but everyone has biases. And I think there are people out there who just don't like Aaron Rodgers and people who don't like Tom Brady. But I think there are a few people who don't like Matt Ryan. He's a pretty unobjectionable. He's a pretty nice guy. He had a great season. His team could make it to the championship. So I have a feeling he's going to win it.
Brett Favre did share his third MVP award. I think they could easily say Aaron Rodgers and Matt Ryan can share it.
Like split the vote?
Yeah. Well, who was the player Brett Favre shared the MVP with in his third MVP? Trivia question. You guys don't know this one? Mm-hmm. His third MVP award, he shared it with another player. 2 players won MVP that year. Who did he share it with?
Obviously, we ignored anything that wasn't Green Bay Packers.
What year was it?
1990-something. 98,
was it Barry Sanders?
It was Barry Sanders. Nicely done.
Oh, that's right.
Nicely done. Very good. So, speaking of running backs, quick running backs, go on to probably one of my favorite potential players, and that is the effect of, I got to say his first name right, it's Kristen Michael.
Yes.
Yes. Really seems to be a spark and a lot of excitement from this kid. Is he finally getting it? It seemed like he was having trouble mastering the playbook. Early on, was having some struggles. All of a sudden, boom, he kind of entered the game, and he was a spark.
I mean, he got the team excited. He got the fans excited. I mean, he really helped build onto that momentum in that third quarter and got everybody hyped up. And, you know, football is an emotional game, and sometimes you need that. And you don't often get that from offensive players. You usually get that more from defensive players. But he brought it, no doubt.
I have to admit that I was fully convinced. First, when they first signed him, I was convinced that they were just doing what they've definitely done before, which is bringing someone in to kind of get the scouting report on their upcoming opponent, and then they would mysteriously release him after they finished playing that opponent, so Seattle in this case. But so that came and went. And then I thought, okay, you know, maybe they have something special with him. They'll keep him through the rest of the year, and then he won't be back. Now I'm kind of feeling like, especially because you don't want to have to draft a running back if you really don't need to. Even putting aside for a second what happens to Eddie Lacy, if you have Michael and Montgomery as kind of a 1-2 punch, that's not a bad backfield. When you have Michael's speed combined with Montgomery's hands.
Yep, and throw in the Ripper for a little power. Nice combination, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, when I was doing my research for the Draft Tech site, that particular draft, and looking at the running backs, really, Michael was my second favorite running back in that draft after Le'Veon Bell. Doesn't mean I would have drafted him because he was a definite head case, but if you just looked at ability, if you just looked at athletic ability, running ability, I thought he was the second best. I was glad when the Packers took Lacy and not him. That I think he went just before them, didn't he? Seattle took him?
Yep.
Yeah, just before the Packers. So I was actually glad because I was really worried about Michael being such a head case. And as it all turns out here, it's taken 3 years or so for him to maybe figure out that not being a head case is the way to go and to make a career in this league. So maybe he has figured it out. I sure hope so, because as far as ability, he's got a ton of it. I don't think he can block much. I don't know about pass catching, but so he may be a bit one-dimensional, which is why it'd be great to have him paired up with a guy like Montgomery, But he can bring that spark, and he can break. Once he gets into the second level, he can break them, as we saw him do in that other game. So I definitely hope he sticks around, assuming that he has gotten his head on straight.
If you remember, there was that interesting little shot where everyone kind of scratched their head where a Giants player and a Packer player did a little chest bump with each other, celebrating Micah Hyde doing a fair catch. Do you guys remember that on the punt?
Yeah.
That was Kristen Michael, who was celebrating with his friend? Eric Pinkins, who was his teammate on the Seahawks in 2014 and 2015. So it was a fair catch. They looked at each other and they chest bumped each other, two different players. Just, hey, boom. I was like, it's like the glee of the game, and
right?
It's really exciting to see. It's exciting to do.
Yeah, not everybody shows that glee, that excitement.
That's good sportsmanship too. But I do have a lot of excitement, and I know I've mentioned it before, but I do think, as opposed to Montgomery, who I love, I know you love Ty Montgomery. I do see that speed, and if that guy, as you said, Al, can get his head on straight, and he can, whenever you see Michael and Ripkowski in the same backfield, there's almost always positive yards. I remember they ran that on one drive, which they always seem to do. It's like one drive a game, usually the beginning of the second half, and that's where he racked up a lot of his yards right behind Ripkowski. The next drive, I remember, they went with Michael out of a single backfield, and he got stuffed, I think, for a yard or something like that. And I remember thinking, run him behind Ripkowski. Right. But I think that could really be an amazing combination if he had his head on straight. Because boy, Ripkowski, once he has his shoulder healthy, I think he's really been a big plus in the backfield too. Here's a really good question for you. Now we have Montgomery, amazing. Now we have the possibility of Kristen Michael, and we have Ripkowski. What are we doing with Eddie Lacy next year?
$1 million question.
Weighing him every day.
Oh, yeah.
Is
he worth keeping around for them?
Well, it might be a situation like B.J. Raji, where maybe he just doesn't get enough, interest from other teams around the league, and he ends up signing a 1-year prove-it deal, and maybe you keep him around if it's, the right price. I don't know. I don't know how much interest other teams would have and how wary they would be of him in the whole weight situation.
Yeah, I do think that the Packers are sort of, and sometimes I hate it when this happens because, I don't know, I think that more times than not, my allegiances sort of lie with the players rather than the mega profitable teams. But I think the Packers really are in a win-win situation here because he is an unrestricted free agent as of March. And so, like you said, they can sort of take their time. They don't have to start negotiations with him now. They can kind of see, they can even let him hit free agency if they want and kind of see what happens, knowing that they have guys who can get it done. And, if he doesn't end up getting much from another team, then they can sign him to a short deal. They can sign him to a cheap deal. If they do end up losing him, it's a calculated risk, but I don't know that it really hurts them that much because they can always draft someone in the mid-rounds, and they've got Montgomery, Michael, and Ripkowski.
Right. I mean, there's no urgency for them to go out and do anything lazy. There's no reason. They're just going to wait, let the market set itself, and if by some chance, the market is low enough that the Packers would want to keep them, then that's what they'll do. But if not, okay, thanks a lot, Eddie. We'll see you.
Well, let's get to the real meat of today's show, and that is, of course, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. I find it funny because it is very annoying, and I know a lot of people who are listening to the game on the radio as opposed to listening to the TV, but I have to listen because some of my best tweets are ripping on Troy Aikman, so I kind of have to listen because it gives me good material.
Good job.
It is. It's what I do. But this petition, what's up with that? 20,000 signatures?
Yeah, that's embarrassing. No, it's not crazy. It's embarrassing. It makes us look like Vikings fans. Right? I mean, this is something Vikings fans would do, would just whine about everything. And, oh, my God, it's so unfair. We must do something about it. Everybody hates us. This is a Vikings fan thing.
It definitely feels like a persecution complex a little bit.
Hopefully it's a little bit. I'll go a little beyond a little bit.
Right, and you can feel, you have the right, maybe, to feel that media members have a bias against your team. But I'm sure there are even still people who trend in that direction who think the petition is the most ridiculous thing, because it is.
The Packer Ranter had one of the tweets we considered for Tweet of the Week, but this was from the Ranter. A playoff win in Dallas against the Cowboys will be a serviceable vindication for the 1990s, so I can update my list. That was from the Ranter. And but I think a lot of that has to do with that. I think we really never got a good vindication against Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman and those guys. There was that feeling that we wanted to build a team that could have beaten Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and that star-studded team that kept knocking us out of the playoffs. I remember how much we kept saying the year that we did finally win the Super Bowl in 1996. Fans were saying, "Oh, okay, now we're doing so good. We want to face Dallas." And I remember it was fans from other teams and some of the NFL media were saying, "Actually, guys, shut up. No, you don't. You don't want to face them. But they're sucking this year. They're terrible this year. They're not as good as they were. You still don't want to face them because they got your number. You don't want you don't want to face." And we didn't face them. We didn't face them in the playoffs the year that we won the Super Bowl. And by the time we beat them, I think weren't they back up in Lambeau Field, and they were basically a shadow of their former selves, and it was just a regular season win. We just kind of beat them and crushed them, and it just never really was that feeling of vindication. So I think that there's this ongoing resentment towards Troy, which I agree with you, Michelle, is a little bit of a persecution complex. But if he just wouldn't go into the stories every show, I remember when I played him in the 90s and we won. I was like, shut up, Troy. Just, no, you don't have to tell that story again. Stop. We don't need reminders. So, I mean, it's those little things that he does that brings out that persecution complex.
Well, and I think, so I used to work for Fox Sports, so that's a disclaimer. I don't think Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are unworthy of their positions in the league, and I don't think they should be removed from Packers broadcast. However, my disclaimer aside.
Traitor! How dare you?
Rabble.
I'm starting a petition to go against, to remove you as a Packer fan.
Remove me from Cheesehead Radio. From
being a Packer fan.
Oh, okay. I'm not a fan. I'm an unbiased media member.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So I think that it's the job of being a color commentator is tricky because you don't get as much to do as the play-by-play guy, and you kind of just have to sit there and just talk about stories. And then it's annoying because the only people who are interested in your own stories mostly are you. It's better when Aikman can kind of get into the head of this is what a quarterback thinks, this is what he does to evade, that yada yada. But I do sort of see a little bit of the exasperation or concern in this particular instance when they're going to be playing the Cowboys, because I do think that if you go back and listen to Aikman broadcasts when they're covering the Cowboys, that obviously he's, really pro-Cowboys, and I think that comes through in his stories a little bit. But at the end of the day, I mean, the fact that people claim bias, announcers don't have a rooting interest in the outcome. They're just doing their job. And I think especially with Buck, I don't think Joe Buck is as exuberant or emotional as some of the other announcers tend to be. And some people read that as negative, but I actually kind of like that he's a little bit more middle of the road. I don't know. I mean, listen to Wayne Larrivee if you can, because obviously he's, as good as they come. But
he is the consummate professional, Wayne Larrivee. I went to they had the pep rally on Saturday night there, and he was hosted. I mean, the guy is just so smooth. He's just so good at what he does. Tremendous. But I just want to say one thing about you, Michelle. I really. That's not bad. I really love when you yada yada. You yada yada. I think with the best of them. I think you got a really strong yada yada game, and keep it up. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. And I'm not even really of the Seinfeld generation. I'm just a few years
I know
too young,
that's what surprises
I didn't even inherit
me.
I'm an old soul in my yada yadas.
That surprises me. Yeah. So, but pleasantly surprised. So
thank
keep
you.
up the good work.
When we give out our Cheesehead Radio Awards at the end of the season, I can win Best Yada Yada.
So there's no competition. None at all.
You are
We'll already engrave your name on the trophy.
Hey, should we get to this week's Hot Pockets?
Oh, we love ourselves some Hot Pockets.
All right.
Hot Pockets.
There we are. Hot Pockets. We got one final thought from each of our hosts as we go around the table. Something that's pressing on our mind. Who wants to start today?
You do.
Pick a number.
You never start.
I never start? Oh,
right.
Fine. All right. Mm-hmm. I will start. There's been so much brought into this playoffs centering around the offense. And, obviously Aaron Rodgers has picked it up. He's been amazing. He's picked up the offensive around him. We're able to absolutely crush, a top-ranked New York Giants defense. It was great, but we're so worried about our defense. And the defense got together, and maybe we weren't knocking away the balls, and luckily the receivers were dropping the balls for us at the beginning, and it's nice. But at the end, we demoralized the New York Giants offense. And so the two teams we keep worrying about, the two squads, I should say, are playing really well. But the one that goes forgotten, I think, has been our special teams. And Jake Shum, fantastic. In freezing cold weather, kicking very, very well. Obviously, Mason Crosby, who I mentioned earlier, is just automatic. But we have Micah Hyde. It has had a really, really good set of returns. Jeff Janis is even playing well on special teams, thank God. He's been a spark. You can't deny the impact of special teams, and I think it goes unnoticed. You don't notice special teams when they're doing okay. You tend to only notice special teams when they're screwing things up for you. But I think that may be going into this game against Dallas. As long as they keep playing at this level, it really does help out in that field position battle with the punting and the coverage and the returns. I think this might be our secret weapon that hopefully we'll continue to have over the Cowboys on Sunday. And that is my
Hot Pocket.
There it is. Too much of a delay. You got to work on that.
Pregnant pause.
Yeah.
Now you can pick. Now you can pick a number between 1 and 5. Go ahead.
To decide who goes next.
Yeah.
3.
3. Al.
All right. My Hot Pocket is about finding an offensive flow early in the game. Okay? This past game against the Giants for the first, 2 quarters or quarter and a half or so, nothing was coming easy. And one of the problems was the approach, and whether this was McCarthy or Rodgers, in their press conferences after the game, they both actually referred to it. And Mike McCarthy said, I have to do a better job getting Aaron into some basic throws. Rodgers said, I wasn't in a good rhythm first quarter and a half, missed a couple of throws. Then Mike did a good job getting me in the flow. So they both are totally focused here on getting in the flow. And the reason they weren't in the flow is they were taking unnecessarily low percentage pass attempts. You know, you had a 3 and 2, and you're throwing the ball 30 yards down the field. Well, okay, maybe you'll get lucky and complete that, but if not, you'd kill another drive, right? So they can't do that against the Cowboys. They're not going to get as many possessions against the Cowboys as they did against the Giants. You know, it's just not going to happen. So they really need to be on top and make the most of every possession. So for me, it's getting out to an offensive flow early, make some simple completions, okay? Don't try for the 30-yard pass the first couple of drives. Keep it simple, move the chains, let Rodgers start feeling good, and then watch out. Can't start slow against Dallas. And that is my...
Hot Pocket.
That was better.
I like it.
All right, Michelle, choose a number. Oh, never mind. Just go.
We're done with that game. Okay, well, my Hot Pocket, I think, is pretty obvious, but nevertheless, I think it needs to be said. We know that the Packers' run defense started the season as the best in the league, and in fact, the last time these two teams met, it was a matchup of the league's number 1 run defense in the Packers against its number 1 rushing offense in the Cowboys. At this point, we could probably still call the Cowboys the best rushing offense in the playoffs, but I probably wouldn't call the Packers the best run defense in the playoffs. And I think basically what this game might come down to is, can the Packers hold Ezekiel Elliott under 100 yards? And that sounds a little bit crazy, but I went back and looked at it, and he actually rushed for fewer than 100 yards in 8 games during the regular season. And so I don't think, even given this offensive line and even given how the Packers maybe sort of let up a little bit over the middle in the middle of the year, they've really kind of clamped down again over the last few games. I think they haven't, since week 14, they've held all their less than 100 rushing yards per game. And we saw against the Giants, Mike Daniels had, according to Nathan Janke, my favorite Twitter stat follow, had a 28.6 run stop percentage. He had 4 run stops on 14 run snaps. So when you've got Daniels in the middle there, you've got Micah Hyde coming down, helping out the run. You have Jake Ryan, who had a great game. I think that if the Packers can contain Elliott, they win this game. And that is my...
Hot Pocket.
Oh, you did it again.
You surprised me with that, guys. Come on, give me. So we can press the sound after the show. You won't even know.
Your finger has to be on the button while she's talking. Ready? Okay. Okay. Now we got that.
Guess who's running the soundboard next week?
You are. The right way.
I think Al's still.
I'm voting for.
I think Al's still knocking on wood about that Randall Cobb tweet. I hear a lot of.
I think he's still trying to pick a number. Anyway,
that wasn't me.
There we go.
Cheesehead Radio. Packers game predictions.
A couple months ago, I don't think anyone would have predicted the Green Bay Packers to be in the playoffs, much less going against the number 1 seed Dallas Cowboys. But at about 3:40 on Sunday afternoon, they will be down in Dallas, playing for the chance to go to the NFC Championship game. How do we see this game working out? Let's start with someone besides me, Michelle.
I am the opposite of you in many ways. This is going to be a close game, and I think that I was surprised that the game against the Giants was as much of a blowout as it was. I don't think we're going to see that again this week. I don't think either of these teams are going to get out to an early lead. And I think as they start to trade scores back and forth, the game basically could veer out of control if really just one of the teams makes one big mistake. And so my hope here is that the Packers are able to force the Cowboys into a mistake to the tune of a turnover, and that getting that turnover gives Green Bay the extra boost it needs to pull ahead and ultimately slip by. So I'm going with Packers 21, Cowboys 20.
All right. I'm going to say that there are 2 things that are going to be pivotal in this game that are going to determine how it turns out. The first one, of course, is going to be the Packers defense. And while they have done a yeoman's job, and they did a great job after, especially once the Giants started becoming demoralized, they really started playing up to the level with a lot of excitement. They're still a little bit, they're not our starters necessarily playing in that secondary. And I'm afraid that if we go against a really, really good offense, as possibly Dallas may be, and they start taking advantage of some of the things, there were times I was watching the Giants and going, what are you doing? Why are you just go back and pass every time? What are you doing? Well, they go back to the run, and they kind of got out of the rhythm, and it didn't happen. It's very possible that if Dallas can really take advantage of where the weaknesses are in defense, this could be a very quick done-and-over game. The other thing is the very fact that Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott are rookies. And this is their first time in the NFL playoffs, and it's a big stage, and the level of play is already up. You can tell just by looking at the Packers, their level of play is up. Now, Cowboys have had a week off. They've rested some starters. Sure, they're rested up, but are they in their groove? Are they in their zone that maybe they were in there for quite some time? It's very possible that those two rookies could kind of hit the rookie wall, as many of them do. So I'm going to count on it. I'm hoping for it. And I'm going to say Green Bay 28, Dallas 27.99. It'll be a very narrow victory, but that's how I predict.
Scores are getting closer and closer every year.
That's how I did last week. You know what? I'm going to be like Jayme, and I'm going to say, you know what? I'm not going to go away from what's working. Jersey out.
I one question. Did you go to 2 decimal points last week? I don't remember.
I only went to 1 decimal point last week.
That's what I thought. Right. So you're going beyond.
Yeah. Well, I want it to be a much, I'm hoping if I predict it closer, the score will be a lot further. How's that sound?
Okay.
Reverse psychology.
All right. In any case, moving right along, I've got this being a rather high-scoring affair by both teams. I think it's a game that will go back and forth throughout the game, and I think the Cowboys will be leading the game late in the fourth quarter, and the Packers will come back with a game-winning drive, touchdown drive, not a field goal drive. Green Bay 34, Dallas 30. Packers score the last touchdown of the game for a come-from-behind victory and a trip to the NFC Championship game.
Let's hope all of this comes true. Let's take it out. I'm going to let someone else do the wrap-up, otherwise I can't get to the music. So who wants to read that?
I'll do it.
Michelle, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Never done it.
I'll take one.
It's your turn.
There you
go. Do this. Crush
and
it.
Don't yada anything, okay? Say the whole thing.
Okay. I'll try.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us tonight on Cheesehead Radio. Make sure to head on over to PackersTalk.com where you can explore several unique Packers podcasts. Please follow @PackersTalkNet on Twitter and like the Packers Talk page on Facebook. Cheesehead Radio and all Packers Talk podcasts are available on iTunes. Just Google Packers Talk iTunes and you'll find it. Be sure to subscribe and please leave us a review if you can. You can also listen in by using Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, or your favorite pod-catching app and search for Packers Talk. Finally, please be sure to support our sponsor, Ticket King. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com. That's theticketking.com. That's a wrap. Go Pack Go. Beat the Cowboys.
Beat Dallas.
How about that,
Dallas?
Yada, yada, yada.
Win the game.
Good night, everyone. Go Pack Go.
Good night.